Welcome, everybody. Rodrigo here with another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. Moving a little bit on the quick end as far as dropping some episodes and podcasts this week. If you're listening to this, it's at least Wednesday. I think it's going to be Wednesday the 8th. And we're going to have another episode coming out tomorrow. We had one come out yesterday with Ashley and Katie, just talking about what they're seeing in the market, their opinion about what's happening, where things are going, what they're experiencing. This is a little bit of a departure from what we were intending to do, right? We were planning on doing one podcast every other week, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 or 3 a month, but we're having the switch because everything's changed, right? We are in uncharted territory, and so we wanted to do our best to update you guys. And a lot of these conversations, it's also conversations that we're personally curious about and just trying to explore everything. So don't know how everybody's doing with the whole quarantine life and how that process is going. I've been wearing a hat now anytime I'm out in public, the few times that I've gone out, or anytime I'm on camera, because I was on the back end cycle of needing to get a haircut, and I ended up getting a haircut. My wife gave me a haircut, and I'm definitely still wearing a hat. My hair is shorter, but not necessarily looking any better, unfortunately. It was a good effort, but definitely didn't pan out the way we anticipated. So hope everybody's enjoying the time and trying to find the silver lining as much as possible as we wade through this. And best of luck to everybody. Love to hear some funny stories if anybody has them as well. So today we are going to do a market update and just talk a little bit about what I'm seeing and kind of some of the numbers. A lot of this is, in a ways you could call it just a way to stay accountable on my end and just looking at numbers and then just sharing what I'm seeing. Hope this information makes sense for you all, and hope it's useful. Probably going to be doing this on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on the numbers, and just kind of going to be digging into this. So this information was all pulled together. I pulled all of this stuff together on Monday, April 6th. So it's a day or two old, but we're, moving forward together. So kind of doing this as a joint combination between Asheville Real Estate News and Asheville Cash Buyers. So if you have any questions, all of the social media handles are going to be there on the screen. Feel free to reach out to us. Asheville Cash Buyers is the branch that we do where we, buy houses and do that side of things. And then obviously Asheville Real Estate News is the podcast, conversation, interview, educational type of content that we put out. So if you have any questions about, selling a house or anything on that side, check out Asheville Cash Buyers. If you here for the podcast and everything, nothing new here. This information, if you are listening to it on any of the podcast platforms, would encourage you to also take time to either watch this on Facebook or watch this on YouTube. Going through a Google Slides presentation that's going to have some numbers and data, and if you're into that, it'll be a lot easier to follow along. So what areas are we going to cover? We're going to be covering the city of Asheville, Buncombe County, excluding the city of Asheville, Hendersonville, Henderson County, excluding Hendersonville, and also Haywood County. So those are the geographic locations we're covering. The data points that we're tracking, and if you feel like we're missing a data point or there's something you're personally curious about, let us know. Might add it into the next presentation. Is the number of active listings, number of closed listings, medium days on market, number of expired listings, the closed price to original list price ratio, and the number of properties under contract. And today, when we look at these numbers, we're going to be looking at two different data sets. We're going to be looking at all of Q1 for 2020, and then we're going to zoom in and focus on just March 2020. So some of that information is going to, in a sense, feel a little redundant, but I wanted to break out March specifically because as we start looking at the numbers for April, I wanted to be able to compare it on a month-by-month basis and see where the changes, if any, exist, because March is kind of when all of the coronavirus stuff started happening and those shifts started to happen there. And April is when we're going to start to find out if it's affected things at all. I mean, I think everybody's under the assumption that it has, but we're in real estate, and so this is really something that's a big benefit to real estate. Is there's data points and there's information out there everywhere, so we don't have to make when we're looking backwards, at least we don't have to make educated guesses. We can look at the numbers and have a very clear, concise picture of what's happening. All right, so we're going to look at the data in two different ways. The first two ways are going to be graphs, a graph for Q1, and then again, a graph for just March. The graphs are a little hard to read, but I just wanted to include them for comparison purposes. So here's the first graph for Q1 2020. I'm not going to dwell on this a lot, and I'll include these graphs in the show notes so you can read this on our website. So yeah, it's just the numbers are kind of big, so the graphs are hard to really look at. And then same thing, here's the March 2020 graph. And again, if you want to actually look at the graphs, and I'm not really going to spend a lot of time here, just go to the website, go to our show notes and take a look at that there. But here are the tables. And so here are the numbers. This is the numbers that we used to pull the graphs together. And again, just what we're tracking. So first column, number of active listings, number of closed listings, median days on market, number of expired listings, closed price to list ratio, and how many are under contract. So the biggest thing that I found interesting, well, maybe not the biggest, but something that definitely stood out to me, is if you look at the total number of expired listings for Q1 2020 in Buncombe County was 571. And then if you zero in, the number of expired listings in March 2020 was 226. So I'm not sure what the math is at, but that's just shy of 50% of the expired listings from Q1 happened in March. City of Asheville also had a comparable, although not as drastic of a comparison, as far as having 531 expired listings in Q1 and 184 of those listings happening in March. The Henderson County, Hendersonville, and Haywood County were kind of on par in the sense of it being almost like a third each, except Henderson County had 210, again, third, almost a third is 210 expireds and 75 expireds in March. So it's interesting to see, that there seems to have been a subtle shift for Buncombe County and City of Asheville as far as expireds go for March. But for Henderson County, Hendersonville, and Haywood, it seems like, I didn't break this down by months, but as far as January and February, but, it seems like it was a third, you could argue. As far as the amount of properties that went under contract, which is also good to know as far as getting a feel for what's happening, March was really a strong month if you look at it in comparison to the total number of properties under contract for Q1. So I'm going to run through these because I think this is really insightful. So Buncombe County, 444 properties under contract for Q1 and 154 under contract for March. City of Asheville, 418 properties under contract for Q1 and 121 in March. Henderson County, 186 for Q1, 62 for March. Hendersonville, City of Hendersonville, 243 under contract for Q1 and 87 for March. And then Haywood County, 266 under contract, 97 under contract for March. So, people were still actively putting properties under contract and making offers in March. We'll find out if those numbers, how many are under contract, change next week, and they'll give us a feel for what, early April looks like. I'm not going to dwell on this too much longer, but just also wanted to point out the closed price to list ratio is really similar between the overall Q1 and March 2020. Negligible difference, and when there were differences, for the most part, it actually went up in March as far as the closings. Of course, that's not super current. I don't know how many, but I'm assuming not a lot of the closings that happened in March were from listings that were listed in March, right? So that's a little bit of a lag time there. We still had good, consistent closings through March of 2020, if you look at it in comparison to Q1 2020. So, my takeaway, in my opinion, just looking at the numbers is, although we personally all started feeling effects of this, March in real estate didn't have an immediate effect. So we're going to be, I'm really curious to see when we have this conversation next week to see what these numbers, because next week, instead of comparing Q1 2020 to March 2020, we're going to compare March 2020 to April 2020 year to date. And that's when we're going to find out what the effects are, if any, for our markets here in the Asheville area. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us if you want us to dig into something a little bit more, or if there's a different data point that you want us to track. Reach out to us again. You can reach out to me directly on Instagram at Rodrigo Fonador, or you can on Asheville Cash Buyers again if you have any questions about selling a house. And then if you're interested on just having more of these conversations, or if you have a specific guest or topic you'd like for us to explore on the show, please reach out to us on Asheville Real Estate News. That's avlrealestatenews.com, or at Asheville Real Estate News on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks you all so much for tuning in. If you found this helpful, or if you think you know of anybody who might be interested in this type of information, please share it with them. And if you haven't yet, do your good deed for the week. In all seriousness, though, it'd be great to get any reviews from anybody who you've found value or you've enjoyed the show. Stay safe, stay home, and hope everybody is, finding the silver linings in these moments of being home so much. Take care, guys. See you all next week.